Hello, good morning and welcome to this edition of the newspaper show on ET Now. I'm Shell D'Souza along with Varun Hirimat. And before we get on to the top headlines on the Economic Times as well as the Times of India, here's a caveat coming in for all of our viewers, all of those who are not getting their newspapers due to some issues, or you are worried if newspapers are safe or not. Here's an information for all of you that the public health specialists have said that the fears about the newspapers being unsafe is unscientific and there is no rationale to it. Also, the presses follow stringent hygienic protocols as well as the delivery agents. They also follow all the safety methods, so there's nothing for you to be worried about newspapers. In case you are not getting your copy of the Economic Times or the Times of India, you want to subscribe to it, please go on to www.wantmypaper.com, or you can also call your delivery agent and vendor and ask for your copy of Economic Times right away. So that is one of the top caveats that we wanted to give you this morning, Varun, before we get on to the top headlines. But let me take you through what's the top headlines this morning on the Economic Times. And first up is that the PE, the private equity player Silver Lake, has actually gone ahead to invest 5,655 crores in Reliance Jio. This follows the Facebook deal that came in late last week. Next up on the top stories in Economic Times, you have Gilead, which is in talks with Cipla, Dr. Reddy's as well as Jubilant for licenses for that particular drug that is showing positive results for coronavirus. You have two Indian local companies, Oro Vaccines as well as Pune's Genova, that has joined the race for formulating a vaccine for coronavirus. You have fresh US-China tensions that's opened the gates for the last street bears. And you have component suppliers that may derail auto companies' plans to restart.
Right, Cheryl, thanks for that. Following these stories are the fact that JSPL plans to sell its stake in the Oman assets. So that's another big development. Also, the RBI governor assures NBFCs of liquidity support. It's another key story that the paper is carrying today. Following that is e-commerce firms seek clarity on the equalization levy. So they're looking out for some clarity as far as regulation goes. The manufacturing PMI hits an all-time low of 27.4 in April, so that's pretty low, the lowest we've seen in recent times. And finally, the liquor companies fret over the huge crowds that we saw gathering at the various liquor stores when they opened just yesterday.
Those are the top headlines that were there on the Economic Times this morning, Varun. But let's move on and let's see what are the top headlines on the ET market space. On the market front, you have benign Nifty P that is yet to price in the lockdown woes. That is the top headline on the Economic Times market space. You have that next story is on Nifty. It's seeing a strong support around 8,800 and 8,900. For Reliance Industries, the data looks like the new oil. That is what Mukesh Ambani has been saying for the last 2 or 3 odd years. The data is the new oil. You have liquor stocks that rallied as retail sales get a nod. And FPIs are factoring India ratings downgrade.
Right, Cheryl. And following this are some of the corporate roundups of what's come in the paper today. Firstly, being that the two-wheeler makers are set to resume work, so they're all exploring that opportunity. Mobile phone manufacturing is also to restart, which was previously halted. Online releases, so film producers versus multiplexes, it's going to be quite the debate going forward. Companies set to suffer labor pain after the lockdown, so that's another theme we're keeping an eye out for. And companies may restrict business travel over safety, so really prioritizing the well-being of their employees as opposed to their travel agenda. But moving forward quickly, Silver Lake PE is to invest around 5,655 crores in Jio. Let's remember that's going to be at a 12% premium to last week, or let's say a couple of weeks ago Facebook price. So already a premium coming in there. And it should be the first of many such stake sales, as Reliance still has to delever another 50,000 crores even if you account for Facebook and this deal. So we'll be eyeing out for it pretty closely, should be keeping that counter pretty active, and Jio should be looking to list in the next 2 years.
All right, that was the Economic Times lead story that Varun was talking about. Yesterday early morning, you had the PE player Silver Lake actually come out and say they're going to invest in Reliance Jio following the Facebook deal that happened last week. But let's move on and let's get you another top story that's there in the front page of Economic Times, and it is Gilead that is actually looking to make remdesivir available globally. Remember, positive results coming in on that particular drug. The US FDA has approved emergency use of the drug, only emergency use. Gilead has a patent for the drug in India, so definitely you have Indian players also that are in talks. And what are the companies? Yes, Cipla, Dr. Reddy's, Jubilant that are in talks. The company is in talks for giving out the license. But what does it mean? And to talk more on the particular story, we're joined by my colleague Pankaj Podar. Pankaj, take us through, will this be a big boost for our Indian pharma companies?
So, it's a completely expected development. This is something that, was expected. Now, when we talk about this drug will be needed in a big way, very, very fast. So it's very difficult for any one company to go ahead and make it. And that's why probably, companies that have worked with Gilead earlier now, almost 80 to 90% of the Indian pharma generic companies have worked with this company earlier for production. So it's not that they don't have relation. They do have relation with most of them, whether you talk about large ones like Dr. Reddy's or, slightly smaller ones like Laurus Lab and Jubilant Industries as well. So that's the sense that you're getting, that, this company has been now approaching other generic pharma makers. It's not only here in India, but globally. But India, of course, is, one of the cheapest and one of the best manufacturers of generic pharma. And that's probably the key reason why you're getting this news flow that 3 players may be in and around. We have spoken to Dr. Reddy's earlier about this in-licensing, and they have clearly told us that at this point of time, they have nothing in terms of any deal. However, in future, if there could be a deal, they would explore the opportunity. So that's broadly what you are, looking at. Even Laurus Lab in their call said that, they expect some business regarding this drug to come in because they need fast production and they have relationship with Gilead earlier. So it is an expected development, but let's see where the in-licensing happens. Very, very tough to say whether it will be a big boost or not, but definitely something which Indian pharma will get and will be able to export in various markets.
All right, thanks for that, Pankaj. And also, if we skip to page 5 of the paper today, that's the Economic Times, quite bold letters there. You see 2 more companies, pharma companies, have joined the race for the vaccine. Now, this is, one of them is a Hyderabad-based Oro Vaccines, and another is Pune's Genova Biosciences. So these are 2 more local companies that have joined the race. But my colleague Vivek, who tracks the pharma space and these developments quite closely, is now joining in. Vivek, what does this mean for the pharma sector?
Well, India continues to be amongst the forefront of the nations in the bid to actually go ahead and find a vaccination against COVID-19. Now, the company that you are talking about are Hyderabad-based Oro Vaccines as well as Pune-based Genova Pharmaceuticals. Both of them are the latest to join the fray. Now remember, already you have 4 companies in the fray that have already received grants as far as government agencies are concerned. Zydus Cadila again, which has been on the forefront, and also Serum Institute of Pune, which has already said that it has started mass production of vaccination. What they have actually said is that as soon as they get any kind of positive response in most of their testing, they would be able to scale up and ramp up production very quickly. So now what you're saying is that what both of these companies are, that they're actually working on vaccine platforms, and these are mainly modular structures that could be tweaked and applied as far as emerging infectious diseases are concerned. So again, what this basically means is that you're developing a kind of a smart vaccination that could work against COVID-19. So right now, 6 Indian companies are in the fray to go ahead and quickly develop a vaccination against COVID-19. At this point of time, of course, what you need to wait and watch out for is the kind of results that these vaccinations give in various testing environments. And once that is done, they could be fast tracked into mass production of vaccination. So overall, it's a wait and watch mode, and fingers are crossed, hoping that one of these Indian companies could, at least one of these Indian companies could crack the code as far as vaccination against COVID-19 is concerned.
All right, thank you, Vivek, for taking us through that important story where you have two of the local players, I beg your pardon, that are in race to find the vaccine for coronavirus. But let's move on to Economic Times markets page, and here is a story right at the bottom. That is, RBI governor meets NBFCs as well as microfinance companies and assure liquidity support and via TLTRO, that is targeted long-term repo auction. Lenders are sought shifting the moratorium period to April to June period. They're also seeking further relaxation in asset classification. What are the other demands of the NBFCs from the RBI? One is that to include direct liquidity support from RBI, especially for smaller as well as medium-sized lenders. Remember, NBFC sector is definitely bearing the brunt of this particular lockdown, and also they were in trouble much before the issue of coronavirus. So the RBI governor met the NBFC players. They've met also microfinance institutions. They've assured liquidity via TLTRO. The role of NBFCs as well as microfinance is important in delivering credit. That's the word coming in from the RBI. Post-lockdown strategies for supply of credit has been discussed in the meeting, and also availability of liquidity from banks have been discussed with the NBFC. So that is one of the top stories. We need to watch out and see how the NBFCs react to this particular development, and also what will the RBI do to ease pain for that particular sector.
Right, another key development this morning, the FPI's factor in India ratings cut, that a quick rebound might not. My colleague Ajay is joining in to get us perspective on all this. Good morning, Ajay. Welcome to the show. What does this mean for us?
Good morning, Varun. Varun, this is a story which has been done by the markets page of ET today, looking at two things. One is the way commentary of rating agencies have been changing for Asian economies. In fact, just a couple of months back, one of the rating agencies downgraded the outlook of our sovereign. I will repeat, they had changed the outlook to negative. And there is also a big fear among FPIs that if this is the way, our deficit continues to come under pressure, then the sovereign rating of our country could also come under pressure. And the factors on which rating depends on deficits is one of the big factors. And if deficit worsens, then rating agencies could be forced to change the ratings or downgrade the ratings as well, not only for India, for many other Asian economies. And that is the risk which we are running right now, and because of which there's a massive selling from FPI which have actually happened. But if you look into the detail of it, I would take this also with a bit of pinch of salt, because last 3-4 months, if you look at the FPI selling pattern, in the last 1 month, 4 to 5 weeks, the selling by FPI have actually gone down. And that is the reason the markets have actually rebounded a lot. So, from here, it will be interesting to see how the selling from FPI continue and how measured is the Indian government in announcing SOPs for the economy and different parts of the economy, because the fact of the matter is that we cannot afford a whole hog kind of approach like US has done, a very large portion of the GDP. We have to go measured because we can't afford a very large one.
All right, Ajay, thank you for joining us this morning, taking us through the story that's there in the ET markets page, that the FPIs are factoring in India's rating downgrade. But let's move on. Let's talk about the auto sector and the story that's there on the page 4 of the Economic Times, and that it reads that the component suppliers may derail the auto companies' plan on restart of the output. And why is this so? Because the suppliers are finding it difficult to kickstart operations after the nationwide lockdown. Remember, this particular segment, as the component segment, it comprises of several hundreds of actually small as well as medium firms. and many of them are actually facing manpower issues. Their lack of manpower, remember, because of the ban on, we had a ban on the migrants moving from one state to another, and now for them also to return back to work, that's an issue. Most of the companies were facing labor issues, and auto component segment is also one of those. Also, you have missing migrants that have left for hometowns due to the lockdown. That's one of the main reasons why it won't restart production. Suppliers hope to get a minimum 50% production in May. The suppliers across the country who plan to start with 20 to 30% of production are actually awaiting clarity coming in from the state. So that's also going to be one of the major hurdles. So even though auto companies are planning to kickstart their production, the suppliers are the ones that won't be able to supply auto component parts due to labor issues, as well as a lack of clarity coming in from the states.
Right, Cheryl, seems to be a lot of problems as far as auto production is concerned. Switching gears a little bit, Utkarsh is joining in. His flights and ships are supposed to bring home lakhs of people from Thursday onwards. Utkarsh, what's happening in this space right now?
Exactly, Varun. So from a long time, there have been lakhs and lakhs of Indians who were stranded abroad. Obviously, in the first phase, there were some flights which came from Iran and China very early before the lockdown happened. Where people from Wuhan and other places were brought back. But remember that post 22nd of March, no flights have really come in the country. And now what we've been told is MHA has issued guidelines that from Thursday onward they will be brought back. One very important thing, they'll have to pay for their travel. This all happened after the migrant laborers, they were asked to pay, and there has been a lot of politics about it in the past 2 days. Then finally, the government, state governments and the central government have come in and decided that they will pay for it. But clearly, this process will start from the 8th of May. There are many stranded Indians abroad. Gulf will be something which the companies will be, Indian government will be starting from, given the fact that there are almost 8 lakhs is the amount which have been told. There's still not, a specific number of how many Indians exactly are stranded. But the MHA will start, in the Ministry of External Affairs will also start looking at the numbers. But clearly, after the migrant workers now have been asked, have been allowed and extra transport, now the Indians abroad have been, who are stranded for many days now, will be allowed and will be asked to come back home.
All right, Utkarsh, thank you for joining us with that latest story that the flights and ships to bring back home lakhs of migrants from Thursday onwards. But let's shift focus now to the top headlines on the Times of India, and the top headlines related to coronavirus. And top of that, you have 2,900 cases that are reported in one day across India. That is the fourth record in 4 days. So a cause of concern coming in for India. Moving on, you have Maharashtra that has topped the list with 14,541 infected and 583 dead. If you put that into context, Maharashtra has 30% of the cases, 31% of the cases, and 40% of the deaths across India. So Maharashtra topping that list. You have Section 144 that has been imposed in Mumbai from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. till the 17th of May. Recovery to death ratio has been is improving to 90:10. I beg your pardon. And 4.4 million back to work as lockdown eases in Italy. So those are the top headlines coming in from the Times of India with relations to coronavirus.
Now that we've got you all up to speed with this morning's paper, we're completely out of time here on this edition of the newspaper show. Before we let you go, please take a special mention and listen in to this very special promo on news for the hearing impaired, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Good morning, you're watching News for Hearing Impaired. I'm Abhishek. With me is Manisha. First, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in non-aligned summit on tackling